Welcome back to Interview Ninja Step 54. We're going to talk about progress so far in terms of the whole Interview Ninja course and what Corbin has learned, and hopefully yourself. We're going to do an exercise looking at use of time. It's really important in Corbin's situation where he's left school and he hasn't decided what to do in terms of what work to look for or whether to take a gap year and so on. Where things fit on our journey. So we're going to think a little bit about future steps and the progress that Corbin still needs to make. We're going to talk about resilience as an adult, because in adult life you face different challenges and different situations, and you have to learn resilience, which is the ability to bounce back and hopefully to learn as well from your mistakes. And finally, we're going to do sowing seeds for Corbin's purpose, maybe a little bit of guidance as to what he wants to do next, because it's his decision and we're not going to push him in one direction or another. He totally has to make the choice so that such progress as he makes is driven by a sense of purpose and his goals.
What I'd like to do is just summarise where we are on our journey before you go off on your journey. All right? And then hopefully we've got time for this session and one more session, hopefully.
Should be.
So that what I want is that you're off like 3 months or whatever. And of course, you're going to have a fabulous time. You're going to learn a lot about the world and about yourself.
Yes.
But possibly we could talk about a mindset for that. So what I'd like to do very soon is have you look at what you've been doing this week. Okay, from the point of view of where's your time gone, your time and your energy, and have you analyze or write down the number of hours and what you've been doing in those hours, and then sort of attach a value to each of those periods of time in terms of how much you were enjoying doing those things. So that will tie in with needs and wants and whether you were doing it because you had to and didn't like it much, or you could be like the French. When I do this with the French, they pretend they like everything.
Yeah.
And when you ask them to critique each other, they always are very polite to each other and say, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought the English would be like that. I thought the French
No,
would just
the
be
English like being honest. They see it as a liberation and an opportunity to sort of say stuff, not in a nasty way, but British, you're in a situation where you're asking them to give their honest opinion, and they always will. Whereas in some cultures, being polite is more important than being honest. So it varies. But obviously, only authentic honesty is important here. So I'd like you to attach to each of those periods of time from 1 to 10 how much you were enjoying doing it. 10 would be you're really doing something you really, really liked. And 1 would be, I did it because I had to. And to be honest, it was a pain in the ass. Like stacking shelves, Marks and Spencer's or whatever. Okay, so I'll have you do that in a minute. And what I want you to do is go back briefly over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Here's today, Thursday, and then also thinking about what we're going to do on Friday, which is tomorrow. Okay, so the time frame for that is just 1 week. Then we'll have our discussions, and what I'd like to do is see if we can put in place, by analysing those results, we could see how much of the way your time and energy is going is doing what you want to do, how optimal it is, and then whether there's anything we can talk about in terms of your self-talk that will enable you to increase the payoff, if you like, or not even payoff, your satisfaction, your sense of purpose, whether it's time just spent and gone, or whether it's time that's building, that kind of thing. Okay, and that's going to take in things like purpose and all sorts of other stuff.
This exercise works best if you, as the student, do it at the same time as Corbin is doing it. Don't wait till afterwards when we do the analysis. Get your initial thoughts recorded. So the exercise is about where does your time and energy go in a typical day? Using 5W2H, it's about who decides what you do. Why do you do it? Is it a need or a want? Where, when, and how are less involved. How much is important in terms of actual time spent and how much you enjoyed doing it. The purpose is to raise Corbin's subconscious awareness of the need to always ask, why am I doing this? Is it to earn, learn, or build personal power? Or am I just, in effect, being a time slave to the wants of somebody else? By you doing the exercise now, you will trigger your subconscious to put in place an activity called dynamic learning. And your awareness of what you're doing will filter in to your subconscious mind and be stored there. And then it'll live with you during the day and your following hours. And it'll keep triggering to you, why are you doing this? Do you need to do it? Do you want to do it? Or is somebody else making you do it? And it's very valuable to make notes on that so you can start getting control of your own life.
All right. So, and the other thing, I just wanted to position for you where we are on our journey. So I call it the 7 steps to conscious competence. So
Yeah.
when you're
7 simple steps.
yeah, I like 7 steps. Yeah. When you're at school or even university, a lot of what your path and your purpose is kind of laid out for you. You make a big decision when you go off to a particular university course, let's say, that you're going to get a degree of some, you're obviously going to try and get a good degree in whatever the subject is. It's your choice, whether you go down science, art, what have you. So Louis was talking about that guy, Max, who's just been up to some university somewhere and come back, and he's got a
jazz piano,
first class honours.
Yeah.
And I've talked to his dad. He's got a casual job, I think, working in some sort of cafe. But he's also doing some stuff at the Wiltshire Music Centre. And I don't think his dad knows entirely what his vision is and his purpose and stuff like that. But I think if you look back on it, other than the certificate of a first class honours, I don't know what else he's got to show.
Yes, I'm sure what he's done was fun, and I think he's probably learnt a lot of piano, but those courses spit you out in a similar place to where you started. I think, like, I could go and get a job at Wiltshire Music Centre now.
Yeah, of course you could,
And
with all your
cafe.
Pantone experience.
Well, just-
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think 4 years and 50 grand is worth a job at the Wiltshire Music Centre, but
It's not just the money, it's the time as well.
yeah, well, the 4 years, right?
Yeah. And it does raise the question of, what are the other ways to use those 3 or 4 years? It may not have been 4, but some people do spend that long. So what are the other ways? Are they better? Is it necessary at a certain age in our culture, like from 18 through 22? Is that person not ready for the real world and the reality of the real world?
Probably not. Yeah.
Well, are they or aren't they? Some individuals clearly will be, but others aren't. And depending on how sheltered a person is in their upbringing, they go away from home. And, it's all about the personality of the individual, the support group around them, because they generally lose their normal support group. They have to find out,
Make a new one.
And when you talk to students who are still at university or have just left, they say, well, I had a really good time and I learned a lot about myself. But I think anybody in the ages from 18 to 22 is going to learn a lot about themselves, especially given what you're doing, going around the world and stuff like that. So I don't think you can attribute the value of going to university.
Self-exploration, because it kind of happens anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I think that growth should be almost inevitable. And the wider experience you have, it'll be a different kind of growth. And I think really the big question is whether a person is strong enough intellectually, mentally, with their attitude, whether they're strong enough to survive going those 3-4 years without the support of a university and 20 or 30 or 40 other people on the same journey. Have they got what it takes, basically? So, hence this, the 7 steps to conscious competence. Conscious competence means you're competent already, but you're not too sure why you're competent. You're being quite successful, but you haven't really analysed why. And if you do analyse why, sometimes it can make you less competent. Like if you're a tennis player or something, you're winning games, and then you're not going beyond a certain level, that county level or whatever. You're on the edge of international competition, but other people are beating you. So how do you do it? And very often at that stage, you get a coach who starts to unpick your game and say, well, you need to, hold the racket differently, or, do this, do that. And then they help you practice in a different way. And then you can realize why you were being successful and what you need to change in order to be even more successful. And then that's your journey through to becoming a conscious competent. So this is my vision of it. And it's the 7 steps.
Should we show the...
Don't know if it'll work. Well, I'm planning to sort of do some additional material to go with these things.
Maybe
so that there'll be
something up on the screen.
Yeah. So get something up like that. But I just want you to get a sense of scale of what you're doing. So when you're at school and university, you're basically on step 1, okay? And you learn about words and numbers.
And patterns.
Yes. And they're the sort of things that you very often see with people doing puzzles and intelligence tests. What's the next number in the series? 1, 4, 8, 12, that's the sort of thing you learn at step 1.
Yeah.
And then
normal schooling stops developing the most necessary kinds of intelligence, your emotional, your social, and your applied functional. And from age 10 or 11, starts to focus on more advanced academic skills, or AIQ, as we've called it. We'll need to be able to do basic maths, especially fast mental arithmetic. We need to be able to read, write, and structure sentences to share our thoughts. By age 11, most people can do that. It's after that when schooling turns to things like calculus, physics, chemistry, and a range of facts and processes that very few will need. And what it doesn't do is address things like interpersonal dynamics and soft skills. So the Get the Job You Want course picks up where normal education, say after 11 years old, stops, and it enables you to catch up and develop those soft skills, which you certainly are going to need to have a successful and especially happy life. In step 55, we're going to continue with this exercise, trying to raise Corbyn's awareness of where his time and energy is going at the moment, so he can start reorientating his life more towards his own purpose.